May 4th is Star Wars Day. Ah, how cute. May the 4th be with you. May 8th is the 8th of May. The 8th of May. The loudest day of the year. The 8th of May. May 8th is also No Socks Day. May 8th is World Donkey Day. But the 8th of May sounds sort of like the Ace of Spades. Probably not the way that I'm saying it. So the 8th of May is the loudest day of the year. The day that we honor the loudest band in the world, Motorhead. And I love the band Motorhead. I loved Motorhead when I was a young punk rocker. I loved Motorhead when I hosted Headbangers Ball. And Lemmy is the epitome of rock and roll. Lemmy is rock and roll. Lemmy was my friend, and I'm proud to say I have Lemmy stories. Let's go back to the 8th of May, 2020. You can't really do anything because everything was shut down because of the pandemic. But on the 8th of May, 2020, I wanted to celebrate Motorhead Day. And for some reason, tattoo shops are not on the list of essential businesses. It's very essential to Leah Vendetta because that's where her income comes from. Leah is not only a famous tattoo artist, but she's my wife. Aha. I will get a Motorhead tattoo, which, by the way, would be the very first band tattoo I've ever received. And I'll get it on the 8th of May in my own house. And the tattoo I chose was the iconic Snaggletooth, Motorhead's mascot, which was designed by Joe Pitano in 1974 for Lemmy while he was in a band called Hawkwind. So that's how I spent the 8th of May, 2020. 365 days later, May 8th, 2021, things have opened up a bit. I can now go get my Motorhead tattoo from Leah at the Family Tradition Tattoo Studio. This will be my second band tattoo. And I'm doing something that I would normally never do. You don't get a tattoo that's just like a tattoo that somebody else has. You don't want the same tattoo as another person. But Lemmy is not just another person. And I want a tattoo that was just like Lemmy's. So on my forearm, I got a black spade with the words, "Born to lose, live to win." Think about how cool that is. Born to lose, but live to win. I'm recording today's show on May 8th, 2024. In my driveway, I have a black Cadillac. The license plate frame says "Born to Lose." And the license plate on my car reads LIV, number 2, and win, live to win. It's the 8th of May. Will I get my third Motorhead tattoo? Probably, but not today. Instead, I'm going to call Mikkey Dee, the legendary drummer of Motorhead. Yeah, that's how I'm going to celebrate this year's 8th of May, and I'm going to call it the Cat House Hollywood Podcast. Coming to you from the Cat House South Studio in Race City, USA, I am Riki Rachtman, and this is the Cat House Hollywood Podcast. The 8th of May. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Riki Rachtman, and even though I've been working in TV and radio for 3 decades, I'm probably best remembered for a show I hosted on MTV called The Headbangers Ball. I hosted that show from 1990 to 1995. I know that if it wasn't for what I did 4 years before Headbangers Ball, that I would never have landed that gig, and I sure wouldn't be here with you right now. In case you don't know, a brief history. From 1986 to 1992, the Cat House was at the epicenter of the Hollywood rock scene. Some of the biggest bands in rock and roll would play unannounced shows at the Cat House. But it wasn't the performances by bands like Guns N' Roses, Motorhead, Alice Cooper, Pearl Jam, Faster Pussycat, Black Crowes, the list goes on. It wasn't those bands that put Cat House on the map. It was the sleaze, the debauchery, the raunch and roll. In September 1986, with the help of my then roommate, Tammy Down, from the band Faster Pussycat, we created a meeting place, a happening, if you will. And the reason that we opened it was to get free drinks and meet girls. It's that simple. I enforced a no-camera rule at the Cat House, so anything could and did happen, and we didn't have phones then, so, you didn't have the possibility of something stupid you did to come back and haunt you. Now, you may have heard of some of the stories of nocturnal, reckless abandon that happened at the Cat House. I mean, it's written about in any book on the 80s and 90s rock scene. Most of the crazy things that happened did happen at the Cat House. But these stories come from journalists or reporters, and they're getting those stories from somebody else. There are a lot of good books that attempt to chronicle the rock scene of the 80s and 90s, and a lot of shitty ones too. But the Cat House Hollywood podcast is going to take you back there with the people that were actually there. The feuds, the fights, the struggles, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And these stories haven't been shared correctly until now. Today, the day I'm recording this is the 8th of May, and it's Motorhead Day. So today is a Motorhead special. Woo! The Cat House closed its doors on October 13th, 1992. The last band to play the club was Motorhead. The truth is, I didn't even go inside to watch Motorhead. You have to understand, the Cat House was everything to me. And even though I opened up another club, Bordello, and at that time I started working for MTV and had a radio show, the Cat House, I've got Cat House tattooed on me a couple times. To this day, the Cat House brand is so important to me. And on that Tuesday night in 1992, everything was coming to a close. Every Tuesday since September of 1986, I was at the Cat House. And now it was done. But let's talk about Motorhead, okay? Rock and roll can be complex. It can feature scorching solos and musical transitions and paradiddles and fortissimos and crescendos. By the way, I really don't know what those words mean. But it can also be simple, raw, dirty, and dangerous. It's supposed to be loud. And the really good rock and roll is really loud and usually fast. That's how I like my rock and roll. That is Motorhead. As a teenager growing up in Southern California, I loved my punk rock. I loved the Southern California bands the most. But I loved the English bands too, The Clash, Sex Pistols, Cockney Rejects. And I loved this punk rock album that I first heard around high school. It had classics on it like Vibrator, Keep Us on the Road, and a great punk rock song called Motorhead. I don't care what you say. That song, Motorhead, is punk rock. It was off the first album by the English band Motorhead. Of course, the bass player singer of Motorhead is Lemmy Kilmister. And when you asked Lemmy what type of music Motorhead was, he would always say, "We're Motorhead and we play rock and roll." As I got older, though, I did start listening to more and more metal. That band Motorhead was still there for me. Lemmy started in a band called Hawkwind. Well, actually, Lemmy started as a roadie for Jimi Hendrix. But while I'm on the subject of the band that Lemmy used to be in called Hawkwind, they'd been around for a while in the 70s. But when their bass player Lemmy had to take over the vocals for their singer because some people thought it sounded a little weak, the song that had Lemmy singing was a huge hit. When you're done with this podcast, go back and listen to Hawkwind with Silver Machine. It is such a cool, trippy, psychedelic song, and it's so contagious. Like when that song gets stuck in your head, it gets stuck in your head. Look for the video, too, of them playing live. I think it was the Greasy Truckers Ball or something. Silver Machine from Hawkwind. Let's tell some Motorhead Cat House stories. I'm having a barbecue at my house that was in the Hollywood Hills. I'm not going to name drop here, but it was quite the star-studded event. Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray was there at my house. Oh, so was Tom and Carrie from Slayer, Rob Halford, Mike Muir from Suicidal Tendencies, Robert Trujillo, who was in ST before joining Metallica, he was there, and Biohazard, and Gilby Clarke, and Rob Zombie, and it was a barbecue. We were having a blast, and in walks Lemmy. Lemmy had the shortest Daisy Duke jean shorts on. I'm surprised his balls weren't hanging out. He had a denim jacket on. There was no shirt. His belly was just hanging out. He didn't give a fuck. And even with those short shorts, he was still the coolest cat at the barbecue. And everyone knew it. It was so much fun, that barbecue. Everybody was just carrying on, drinking, eating. I remember Slayer was going to record the song Richard Hung Himself from the punk rock band D.I. And the singer-songwriter of that song is a guy named Casey Royer, who also happened to be at my house. And I remember telling Tom, dude, that guy right there is Casey Royer. And Tom didn't even know who Casey Royer was, even though he was going to record one of his songs. So Mark McGrath comes over to me, and he's like, dude, Lemmy just took this Indian tomahawk off your wall, and he's smoking weed out of it. Yeah, so this is 1994, and there was this kind of Southwest thing that was very popular in home decorating, and I had an Indian tomahawk. It was an old Indian tomahawk that I had hung up on the wall, and Lemmy was smoking weed or something out of it. I don't know what he was smoking. So there's been a few instances in my life when someone will tell me something and I just don't know how to react. So I just stand there, I take it in, and then I just carry on, turn the page. When you hear something like that, you just don't know how to react. So Mark McGrath tells me Lemmy, in his glorious Daisy Dukes, has taken an ancient Indian artifact off the wall and he's trying to get high with it. What do? I just check the burgers on the grill. Matter of fact, whenever I'm in that situation, that's what I'm going to answer with. I'm just going to say, I need to check the grill. Hey, Ricky, Lemmy just took this piece of ancient American Indian art off your wall, and he's doing drugs in it. I'm going to go check the grill. Women, rock stars, everybody at this party is drawn to Lemmy. Actually, anywhere he went, people were drawn to Lemmy. Do you want to know why? Because he's a really good guy. He's royalty, but the furthest thing from being pompous. This party that I had started getting crazy, and soon everyone was getting thrown in the pool, fully clothed or not. I remember Lem pulled me aside and he said, hey, make sure nobody throws me in the pool because I've got speed in my pocket. Throw Lemmy in the pool? Who in their right mind would throw Lemmy in the pool? Nobody. If you see any of these documentaries or read these biographies about Lemmy, you'll hear the word gentleman used to refer to him. There's that one story, however, that brought a woman to tears, and it was my sister. I'll share that later, but let's get Mikkey Dee on the phone. Mickey played with Motorhead, but he was also in King Diamond and Dokken and King Cobra. Mickey is currently the drummer of the Scorpions, but to me, Mickey is the drummer of Motorhead. Of course, there was Filthy Animal, a huge part of all that is Motorhead, but from 1992, it was Mikkey Dee. And I'm going to hit him up after I tell you that. The best way to keep this podcast going, it's so easy. You support it. First, you tell all your friends about the Cat House Hollywood podcast, and you share it, and then everybody listens to it and gives it a great review. And you know how much money starts coming in from all those downloads? Not a frigging penny. But the way you can support this show is simple, by buying something from cathousehollywood.com. I'm talking Cat House shirts, like the one Phil Campbell from Motorhead wore on stage once, or Headbangers Ball t-shirts, or FITG shirts. Hell, the finest coffee you've ever had. Really. That's Cat House Coffee, and all of that stuff is available at cathousehollywood.com. Our only sponsor of this show is me. So go to cathousehollywood.com and you can also find the links to get tickets for our little Las Vegas invasion that's happening. I'm so excited. July 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd in Las Vegas. Go to cathousehollywood.com and you'll find out much, much more. I love the band Motorhead. You know that. I really do. The really old stuff and the music the band put out just up until 2015. On all, there were 10 different musicians that played in Motorhead. Larry Wallace, Lucas Fox, Bill Filthy Animal Taylor, Fast Eddie Clark, Robo, Wizzo, Wurzel, Mikkey Dee, and of course, Ian Lemmy Kilmister. Lemmy was the only person that was in Motorhead since day one. If you were part of the Hollywood rock scene, as much as you knew Lemmy was the baddest man on the planet in rock and roll, you also knew he was very accessible. We would see Lemmy once in a while at the clubs, and of course, in the last 2 decades of his life, Lemmy was always at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on the Sunset Strip. Lemmy kept hanging out at the Rainbow even after the Rainbow wasn't that cool anymore. He was at the corner of the bar, many times sitting alone with his little video game and his Jack Daniels and Coke, which, by the way, is now referred to as a Lemmy. This drink became so synonymous with Lemmy that a major food and beverage magazine released a proper recipe to make a Lemmy. And here it is. 2 ounces of Jack Daniels whiskey, 10 ounces of Coca-Cola, a dash of bitters. Shake the ingredients along with some ice and strain the drink into a whiskey glass. Garnish it with a twist of lemon peel. That is how to make a Lemmy. I had always thought it was just a whole bunch of Jack Daniels and Coke. My club, the Cat House, got on the map not only because of the unbelievable events that transpired behind the doors of this, quote, private rock club, but because of the impromptu live performances. And Motorhead played at the Cat House a lot. Honestly, all Lemmy wanted when they played was Jack and Coke. I'm not really even sure he ever asked for money to play the club, and he played quite a bit. I remember one day when the band Jet Boy was playing the Cat House, and Lemmy got up on stage to do the song Great Balls of Fire. All I had to do to get Motorhead to play the Cat House was pretty much ask Lemmy. Or it might have been his manager, Todd Singerman. And as much as I thank Lemmy for all the times they played the Cat House, or the Christmas cards, or how Lemmy is the only musician that would consistently send me happy birthday greetings every single year, I'm sure that Todd had a lot to do with that as well. And I hope you're listening, Todd. I just want you to know how much I really, really appreciate you. So October 13th, 1992. The final night at the Cat House, and Motorhead was more than willing to play. Matter of fact, when I did the Cat House 20th anniversary on the Sunset Strip, Lemmy got up on stage with Gilby Clarke, Tracy Guns, and blasted through several covers. All I had to do was just ask. Never, ever any rock star attitude. And this was coming from the one band that maybe deserved to have a little bit of a rock star attitude, but they didn't. At one point in the late 90s, early 2000s, I had already been off of Headbangers Ball. I was doing talk radio in Los Angeles, and I had a club that I opened for a very short time called Royal Flush. It was just, I just wanted to do something different. It was all about hot rods and roots rock and roll. Of course, I had the band Headcats play. Rockabilly, hot rods. Oh, who is the band Headcats? Well, the band was formed by Lemmy. It had Lemmy, drummer Slim Jim Phantom of the Stray Cats, and guitarist Danny B. Harvey. Away from the mic stand, Lemmy and I would have great conversations. He knew a real lot about a real lot of things. He was obsessed with World War II and would go on about certain topics that I would just nod, so I didn't seem like an idiot because I really didn't know that much about World War II. He also loved roots rock and roll, as do I. So when it came to some of the legacy artists of the 50s, I could chime in here or there, and we were both huge Little Richard fans. While Lemmy has played with almost a dozen musicians under the name Motorhead, Mikkey Dee was the last drummer in the band. Truth be told, there are few drummers that can come close to the hard-hitting, knock your teeth down your throat power of Mikkey Dee. I've known Mickey for a very long time. We used to do these pickup hockey games, and by the way, I can't skate, but there were so many cool people playing hockey, I decided I'd play with them, and Mikkey Dee was one of them. Mickey was in Motorhead from 1992 to 2015. Side note, he was also in King Diamond and played on Abigail. How great is this to have my good friend Mikkey Dee on with me for Motorhead Day? Do you remember when the last time we saw each other was?
That was when we did the first show. I did the first show with Scorpions at that festival. Yeah.
We had lunch in Charlotte. I took you to the show, and what I don't know if you want me to say, but I'm going to say anyway, you who I truly, and I've said this before, you're one of my favorite drummers to watch because you hit so hard and so aggressive and so raw, but you were nervous about the first Scorpion show.
Of course, we rehearsed for 1.5 days. But I heard, I was tagging along with the guys for a couple of weeks without playing before that. So I had a chance to listen, but it's always tense when you got to go on stage and you haven't. I mean, the first time with Motorhead was in, where the hell was that? Sarasota, New York State.
But it seems to me Motorhead is so fast and so aggressive and so raw, and Scorpions would be, to me, and I am obviously not a drummer, but to me it seems like it would almost be a little bit easier, or is it more precise because they're very intricate?
No, it's actually a harder gig. A show that we do, because our show is, everything has to be so precise, and some of it is on a click track, and there's not space in between I could just call out for Lemmy or Phil, let's have a drink, I need to tune the snare, or when I was out of breath, I could just hey Lem, let's have a drink, and he go okay, and he walk behind, and took 30 seconds to a minute just to catch your breath. But here we got to go.
You started playing in Motorhead, was it 1991?
Yeah, end of 91. Yes.
How many shows do you think, and I know this is just like a very vague question, how many shows do you think you did with Motorhead in that time? Because you guys played a lot.
Close to 5,000.
5,000 shows. I would guess that every show was a little bit different.
Yes, every single one was different, and not in a huge way, but of course, it was a different type of playing and setup for the show, So, yeah, it varied quite a bit in between.
What is it about Motorhead that you think made it such an iconic band that stood out for so long, but it's almost simplistic? It's almost Ramones. It's almost punk rock, yet it's still metal and it's still rock and roll. What do you think it is about Motorhead that has had such a wide appeal and been such a legendary band for so long?
Well, there's a few different elements about that, but if you go back to England, I mean, Motorhead was a band that kind of united hard rockers, not so much metal fans because that didn't really exist at that time, but hard rock and punk. It was okay to go and watch Motorhead play in London if you were a punk rocker and if you were a rock dude or dudette, So, and they all partied down at the show. And then when they left the show, they hated each other again, which to me is kind of unbelievable, actually, because we have a lot in common, especially what Motorhead united them. And then it's the realness of the music, definitely, never selling out, never compromising. And that's what Lemmy was all about. He was never compromising the music or the style or himself or whatever. So, and that goes through, after 40 years. If you haven't got it, you shouldn't even be a Motorhead fan. You can go listen to Britney Spears or whatever, but But for us, I believe that's a few things that is for real, you know.
One of the things about Motorhead is that, you know, you mentioned how it really united, you know, metal or punk and all, and just people that just like rock and roll. But the fan base was so broad. And I can't even imagine the people that you might have seen backstage that you were surprised were backstage at a Motorhead show. Can you remember some people that stood out?
Well, you know, there's so many, Ricky, you know, that's it's
Okay, wait.
impossible to
Can you remember anything that ever happened backstage, Mickey?
never nothing. Well, actually, I can, but it's funny how Phil and Lemmy and Versal at the time, you know, they were just impressed by me remembering dates and shows. You know what I mean? Oh, well, hey, listen, I've been here. We played here the 29th of September, 93, you know, and I go, how the hell do you remember that? I don't know how I remember that, but I remember dates and venues and places and actually what was going on at that time. So I don't know why that is. And that can be trouble sometimes, actually, you know.
With such a history of Motorhead and in the eras from 1991 until to the final show, were there instances that really stood out that like that's pure Lemmy?
Oh, that happened not every day, but every week you got reminded, you know, that Lemmy was Lemmy, you know, in definitely, yeah, it could be anything, but most of all, you know, that he was a very generous and very fair guy, and working together with him 25 years almost, and then knowing him for 34. Yes, of course, there's been plenty of you know moments where you get reminded, but in the end, you know, we were such a close family that you, as Mickey or a family member to this family, I didn't really walk around thinking about that, you know. But sometimes you got hit. You go, well, for instance, he was you know yourself that he was so easy with words and he could come up with his one-offs all the time. But we were talking about a show in Argentina one time. We should fly down there, and of course, I was the number guy going, well, Lemmy, you know, we have to cut down on the equipment because this was a one-off. I said, I'll get Sonar to supply me the drum kit. Phil can have his Marshalls or whatever he played at the time, and you bring your amps, and maybe we shouldn't just fly all the cabinets down because it was an important show for us to do for the future. Or maybe it was Brazil. Maybe it was before a Rock in Rio. So it gave something. And then Lemmy said, he was really upset about it. And he go, all about numbers and money and stuff. But in the end, he said, you know, Mickey, what's the point going down there not sounding like Motorhead? We shouldn't go at all. And, you know, me being all the time trying to figure it out and being the, you know, the guy that sorted stuff out, you know, I go, you know what, Lemmy, you are so fucking right. You know, why should we even go there and not sound like Motorhead? So, you know, it just reminded me he ain't going to sell out. He's not going to compromise. And thank you, Lemmy, for reminding me about that. Because sometimes personally, I could drift off in the business part of it and thinking we have to do this. I'm sure Lemmy knew that too, but you know, he said, what's the point going there not sounding like Motorhead? If we can't sound like Motorhead, let's stay here in LA, you know. And I go, well, you're right. End of discussion. So, you know, stuff like that. He was so quick. And I appreciate that because I learned a lot from that and respected that. And I believe fans see that as well, you know, that he was that way. You know, there was never any talk about cheaping out or doing this just because of making some more money or getting a good side of someone, or he was just, if it worked and we could be Motorhead, yes, we'd be there, and we're going to give you a show you never seen before, because we don't just go 150%. Here we go 250%. So, and that you've seen so many shows, so that's how I can explain it in a simple way, I guess.
I've got more with Mikkey Dee, former Motorhead drummer, current Scorpions drummer, right after this.
Do you love coffee? I mean, really love coffee? Do you know what specialty coffee is? It's a coffee that scores above 80 points on a 100-point scale. Specialty coffee is grown at high altitudes with care and attention from local farmers. There is a specialty coffee with a name you already know. Introducing Cat House Coffee. I'm Lea Vendetta, CEO of Cat House Coffee. Riki and I are there every step of the way. We roast in small batches, so when you get a bag of Cat House Coffee, you know it's fresh, 100% Arabica, dark roast. Cat House Coffee, your new favorite coffee. Order at catHouseCoffee.com.
Do you remember that show, The Young Ones? It was in 1984. I think MTV aired it for a while. It was a comedy. It was hilarious. I remember when Tammy and I were roommates, we used to watch Young Ones all the time. And I remember Motorhead appearing on that show, and they played Ace of Spades. And I just thought, wow, this guy is so cool, because it's like a punk rock band, but the singer's got long hair. Motorhead was the only band that the punks loved and the metal kids loved. I mean, can you think of any other bands that were like that? Lemmy also wrote some beautiful songs as well. And that song from Ozzy, Mama, I'm Coming Home. Lemmy wrote that. Lemmy wrote several songs for Ozzy. That song, Love Me Forever. Lemmy's done several covers that he really made his own. I mean, let me tell you, I love the Rolling Stones, but in Sympathy for the Devil, when Lemmy says, please allow me to introduce myself, he makes that song his own. So my sister used to do movie soundtracks for films. Actually, she still does. And Karen Rachtman was one of the best, and probably still is, as far as music supervision. She did Reservoir Dogs. She did Pulp Fiction. She also did the soundtrack for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. There was a song from 1992, Motorhead, called You Better Run. It's kind of bluesy. Well, the creators of the film wanted Lemmy to do the song using the lyrics, You Better Swim. So Lemmy agrees to sing You Better Swim for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. He's in the studio in Frankfurt, Germany, ready to record the song. And he's got an interview scheduled. The interviewer doesn't show up. Look, nobody pulls a no-show on Lemmy, right? Well, this reporter did. So Lemmy isn't thrilled, but they need some press to help the soundtrack, maybe the movie. So who at the last minute do they send in to do the interview? My sister. She starts by asking Lemmy, what are your thoughts on SpongeBob SquarePants? Can you imagine asking Lemmy that? Lemmy says, I don't know who that is. My sister explains, and Lemmy replies, I fucking hate SpongeBob. I don't know why I'm doing this. I get a phone call from my mother. Riki, can you call Lemmy? He made your sister cry. Let me check the grill. The song was recorded and it was on the soundtrack and released in 1992. 3 years later, Motorhead released Sacrifice. The title track on Sacrifice has some totally insane, progressive, aggressive drums. It was a different type of Motorhead song. But damn, Sacrifice, it was Motorhead, wasn't it?
Yeah. Sacrifice is a great song. Wrote it 94, 95, I believe. And the funny part was when I wrote the riff kind of and the beat, Lemmy, Phil, and Versal stood at me in rehearsal and go, what the hell are we going to play to that? it became one of Lemmy's favorite songs.
Oh, good.
Lemmy said, "We're not Rush, okay? It's Motorhead, Mickey." But we made a great song out of it. And in the beginning, it was, the time sequence of it is a little different than what we usually been doing. So I think that's the charm of that song. It's a stone hard song, and it became a great song for us. So
You played with King Diamond for a while.
oh yes, yeah, I was the original in King Diamond, not Merciful Fate, but
Right.
King Diamond. Yes,
But you played on
Yeah,
Abbey, stuff like that.
yeah. Fatal Portrait, Abigail, Them, Conspiracy.
And then you went into Motorhead. How did the transition from going from King Diamond to Motorhead differ? I mean, I know the Lemmy and those are two iconic rock guys, but they're so different.
Yeah, but you forgot one major deal there. Don Dokken.
I know that you played with
That
Doc
was in
too.
between.
Yes. Well, believe me, if there's anybody in between Lemmy and King Diamond, I would say Don Dokken was there as being different. And you played in Halloween
Well, just a record, yes.
and the Scorpions. So yeah, I know what
Yes.
you did.
Yeah. No, Lemmy asked me first time, I believe 1986 or beginning of 87. And, I was very honored, of course. But I was in full gear with King Diamond, and we did great. And we were a great bunch of guys, great friends, and had tremendous success in America. So I was not going to jump over because of money or fame. Motorhead was a much bigger band than us. But we did so good with Diamond. And to be honest, I didn't earn my stripes to join the band like Motorhead at that time. I felt that I'm miles away, and I'm glad that I actually did not join, because I would have been eaten up for breakfast at that point. I needed to tour, I needed experience, and at that point, King Diamond, that's what I wanted to play. So I was very happy there, and we did great. So I just, with respect, said, "Lemmy, we toured with King," but we kept contact. And then second time he asked me was maybe 1 or 2 years later, 2 years later, I believe. And same thing there. We were rocking our ass off in America. And the third time, I was just about to go out with Don, with the Dokken deal that we did. So, and we had a fantastic year touring with Don. And then the band kind of fell apart. And Don said to me, "Mickey, I don't know if there's nothing going on here now, so if you find something, maybe you should take it." And he barely hang up the phone telling me this, and Lemmy called and go, "What are you doing?" And I go, "Oh, nothing. Can you come to Hollywood and record a couple of songs?" I go, "Yeah." So I jump in my Corvette, and I was in Hollywood within, an hour. And that was it.
But that's pretty flattering that Lemmy would pursue you as a drummer for Motorhead for such a long time. I mean, that's a big pat on the back. I know you're a very humble person, Mickey, but that's still pretty impressive that Lemmy would want you as a drummer. And even while you were playing other bands, still keep on wanting you as a drummer. Just say, "Okay, who's the next guy available?"
Well, he wasn't nagging on me, but they had a few problems with Filthy, and we just stayed in contact. That's what we did. And of course, he didn't call me up, "Hey, do you want to join the band again?" And we were just talking. He said, "So what are you doing? Could you think of maybe coming around playing with the band?" And that's how it was. But it was never, "No, I'm not coming," or we were just talking about it. But I heard that he was interested, and he liked me, and the boys liked me, and I liked them a lot. So I guess we just stayed in contact, and one thing gave the other. In the end, it was the right time to actually join that band. And at that point, I think I earned my stripes, and I had more experience, and I could go out and deliver something and be a part of Motorhead I couldn't have done that earlier. And I'm sure Lemmy knew that in a way as well. Well, let's get some more meat on those bones, Let's get him rocked up or whatever, So it was good that I was not in the band earlier than that.
What are some of your memories of the final Motorhead tour?
Yeah, that was a tough one. See, I was trying to make us postpone that. Not me, but we were struggling a little bit. And I said, maybe we should just take a break. But the one that did not want a break was Lemmy, He said, absolutely not. We got to do this tour. And he wanted to be on stage all the time. And that's how he was. But we had some trouble, with Lemmy starting to get a little sick, more sick than and he was more tired and stuff. And that was a tough tour. But here's the thing. If I had to give 150% out there and Phil, now afterwards, I can't even imagine. Lemmy must have given 500% to be able to get through these shows. I mean, we played the 11th of December as the last show in Berlin. And then he passed away the 28th, just a few weeks later. And the guy was rocking his ass off. So, for me, it's impossible to even think back that you can actually do that. So can you imagine how much effort it took for him to stay on that stage, I came up with all kinds of ideas, because he had a back problem too. And he said the bass is so heavy, the back is on fire. But that must have been parts of his disease, now afterwards. But he had a back problem. So he said he had to stand on one leg at a time. And it was like fire on his back. And I said, maybe you should take a bar stool and he go, no way, Mickey, are you crazy? I will never sit down at the show. And again, not compromising, not changing anything. So all the credit to Lem right there. He really died with his boots on, And I think back about that tour a little bit sometimes, and it was just unbelievable that we could go through with it.
Yeah, and I went to one of the shows, and you could tell he looked a little frail. But when Motorhead was on stage, I was still at a Motorhead show. I wasn't saying like, no, I was there at a Motorhead show. It's funny when you talk to people about Motorhead and people that actually had come in contact with Lemmy, because he was, despite being Lemmy of Motorhead, he was a very approachable person. And one of the words that I hear used a lot by people that knew Lemmy was the word gentleman.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what he was. He was, and that's what's kind of funny, because people were so intimidated by him, and oh my God, is Lemmy here too backstage? Yeah, he is. He's sitting right over there. Oh no, I'm too freaked out. I can't even go. And you go, what are you talking about? And you took someone and brought him into Lemmy, and they were stuck for hours in there, and then the whole facade just crumbled with what people put up, that he was such a hard and angry man. He wasn't. No. He was actually a very soft, nice guy, and very well spoken and very well educated man, that knew everything about everyone. So, and that was fantastic. Yeah.
I got to thank Mickey Dee for taking some time out on May 8th to speak with us here on the Cat House Hollywood podcast. And if you go see Scorpions play, you're going to notice they have a little bit of heavier backbeat, I think, because Mickey Dee is the drummer of the Scorpions right now. And he owns a bar in Paris, France called Alabama. And I'm going to France in November, and I'm kind of excited to check out his bar, Alabama. A Swedish guy has a rock bar in France called Alabama. Sounds great. did you know that I never, and listen to what I'm about to tell you, people, I never picked a video on Headbangers Ball, except I was told on my birthday I could pick one song. In 5 years, I got to pick one song, and I picked I'm So Bad, Baby, I Don't Care from Motorhead. To say I'm so bad, baby, I don't care. That is swagger. Lemmy would be on my birthday show of Headbangers Ball. He'd be on several episodes that we would shoot at the Rainbow. He even kissed me on the head on TV. It was Lemmy. He can do that. He was always really, really good to me. But he was good to everyone that I saw him in contact with. He was intimidating, but once you spoke with him, he made you feel at ease. He listened. You know, some people talk, and then when it's your turn to speak, they can't be bothered. Well, Lemmy listened. Every rock star respected Lemmy. He could wear white boots. I mean, who wears white boots but still pulls it off? Lemmy wasn't in shape, and he would wear a jacket many times without a shirt. But he pulled it off. He could do that. Let's not ignore the obvious. Lemmy had some moles on his face. He fucking pulled that off. Who the hell can look cool with moles, belly, and white boots? Only Lemmy could do that. Lemmy drank a lot. Lemmy did a lot of drugs. Did a lot of speed. Never denied it. He said Jimi Hendrix once told him places to find drugs. Lemmy was indestructible, or so we all thought. We've all heard that joke, right? What type of world are we going to leave for Keith Richards and Lemmy? On September 23rd, 2015, Charlotte, North Carolina, I went to see Motorhead for the last time. They played only 12 songs. It was almost 70. When they played, they sounded like Motorhead. After the show, I saw Lemmy. He was standing with professional wrestler and friend Sir William Regal. Lemmy didn't look great. He suffered from diabetes and a heart arrhythmia. He had had surgery to implant a defibrillator. He joked, and he told me that he was only smoking 1 pack a day. That was his being healthy. And he had switched from vodka and orange juice instead of Jack Daniels for health reasons. Not long after, he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, and 3 months after I saw him, Lemmy died. There were star-studded tributes. Dave Grohl, Rob Halford, Lars Ulrich, Slash, and Mikkey Dee spoke at Lemmy's funeral. 1 year after the funeral, I had the Cat House 30th anniversary party. And on stage, we all paid tribute to Lemmy by playing some of our favorite Motorhead songs. Former Nashville Pussy bass player, Amazon, and a really close friend of Lemmy, Corey Parks, in addition to blowing fire and almost frying the first 4 rows, played the songs using Lemmy's bass. I did an acoustic song with Ace Von Johnson on guitar and Shooter Jennings. Shooter and I sang I Ain't No Nice Guy After All. Todd Singerman, Motorhead's manager, was in attendance, and he whispered in my ear, Lemmy would be proud. And I cried a little bit. December 12th, 2022, I was married, and in the pocket of my rented tuxedo, a bullet with Lemmy's ashes in it. Lemmy was at my wedding. Lemmy was up at the altar with me when I got married. Several years ago, I stood on stage for my first one-man show, One Foot in the Gutter, and in my pocket, Lemmy's ashes. It has been in my pocket every time I've been on stage, and will be with me July 22nd in Las Vegas. I'm recording the show May 8th, the 8th of May, and I'm thinking about a guy, I'm thinking about a legend, an influencer, Lemmy. I mean, he was an influencer to pretty much everybody in rock and roll. There was no polish, nothing on tape. Pure speed and whiskey-fueled rock and roll. Think about what he did. He just played rock and roll. He broke all the rock star molds by never acting like a rock star while being my favorite rock star. Lemmy said, and I quote, "People don't want to see the guy next door on stage. They want to see a being from another planet. You want to see somebody you'd never meet in ordinary life." Lemmy was that guy from another planet, but he was someone that I met in ordinary life so many times. I mean, think about that line that's on the back of my car and tattooed on my forearm. Born to lose, live to win. Think about what that means. We're all here, and it seems like the odds are against us. Sometimes it seems like we're born to lose. Do not let that get you down. You've got to live to win. And the choice is up to you. There's another way that I say the same thing. Remember to keep one foot in the gutter, one fist in the goal.